Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's Chili from O-Town here. I was going to talk with you guys a little bit about an informative video. I started earlier, a few days back, and I talked about three things. I talked about on-axis, explosion, and implosion. Today I want to go ahead and give a little bit more details to a couple more words, maybe three more words. And those words are going to be drift, single pitch, and double pitch. So let's briefly go back up just a little bit and talk about on axis. So we did an on axis video a few days back, and basically our what we said about on axis is the faces of the dice after the result, the faces of the dice which results after you toss them. So you can set them however you choose. This set here is a 3, 2 on the left die, and a 3, 2 on the right die. So let's just briefly go back over the faces. You got the top face, and then the opposite of top is bottom. You got the front face, which is one facing you, and the opposite of front is back or rear, back facing. And then you got the two sides. You got the left side and the right side. Left side, if I rotate that counterclockwise, you see the left die, which is a 1 from the starting position. If I rotate it clockwise, you see the other side, which is the right side facing, which is a 6. So now that we know, this is what we talked about the other day about the faces of the dice and on axis. On axis basically was you're throwing both dice at the same time, but you have to look at them individually. So whichever face results after the dice stops rolling, that is what your dice is called. So say there's a 3, so your result will be a 3 for the left dice. Now, on axis is, I'm going to speed this up a little bit because we talked about this already. On axis is a front, a top, a rear, or a bottom facing result from the starting position. So the starting position is 3, 2 on this dice. So the top is a 3, the front's a 2, the bottom would be a 4, and the rear would be a 5. So if our dice set is 3, 2, 3, 2, as long as we don't see a 1 or we don't see a 6 on either dice, we're on axis. But if we swap our dice set up to where we're not using 3, 2, 3, 2 on both dice, so something like that, if we was using 3, 2, 3, 1, then we would have something totally different on left and right. But that's on axis. So now, and we covered this already, but I was just kind of touching a little bit back over what's on axis. So let's now go into a single pitch, a double pitch, and a drift. We talked about explosion and implosion, so we're going to briefly touch on explosion and implosion again. You have two dice. You have the left and you have the right. When a dice turns on one of its sides toward the other, like this is the left dice, so if it turned toward the right one that way, if it turned toward the inside, that's an implosion. If this one turns toward the inside, that's an implosion. If either dice turns toward the outside, in this manner, that would be an explosion. Now you could have one dice on axis and one dice explode. You could have one dice on axis and one dice implode. So you could have that. So now that we talked about explosion, implosion, and on axis, which, like I said, I covered this a couple days back. So I might have to go back to my videos. Yes, I do need to. I need to go back to my videos, and I will do that after this one. And I'll change the title of that video to the terminology of those three words: explosion, implosion, and on axis throws. Alright, so now that we've briefly talked about those, and if you wanted to get a more detailed look at what that is, there's a video, and I will change the title. It'll be in my videos. All right, but tonight, this is what we're going to go over. We're going to go over drift, double pitch, and single pitch. Let us go with a standard 3-2, 3-2. Because if we start changing sets like 3-2, 3-6, it's going to cause it to be a different number on the sides, and that'd just be more complicated. We want to go with simplicity right now. Once we get the basic meaning of drift, single pitch, and double pitch, then at that point in time, we could carry over into other dice sets and see what those results are. Okay, so a drift would be in the manner to where both dice, if we were throwing the dice on axis, and this is a 3 on top and a 2 facing, that's how you call the dice set, the one on top first and then the facing. So 3-2, 3-2. You call the left dice first, then the right dice. So a drift would be the manner when both dice, so let me spread them out. So if left dice imploded that way and right dice exploded, where both of them fell to the right, that would be a drift. It's not necessarily both of them falling to the right, it's both of them falling in the same direction. So again, if both dice turned this way, in that direction, even though that is to the left, it doesn't matter that they turn to the right or they turn to the left. As long as they turn in the same way. If the results from this dice set in with a 6, that would be a drift. If the results of this dice set in a 1, that would be a drift. Now, as I said, we was going to stay with 3-2, 3-2, but if we change dice set to 3-2, 3-6, you won't get if they both fall over this time, you don't get 1-1. But if they both fall in the same direction, to the right, in that manner, that's a drift. Now, I'm not going to go too much more deep into that. I think that's pretty much self-explanatory at that, or not self-explanatory. I think at this point I've covered it. I've explained what drift is. So when you throw the dice, if both dice rotate to result in the side number, if both of them rotate the same way to the side, this way, that's a drift. If both of them rotate with results, and both of them, this one explodes and this one implodes, that would be a drift. I think that's pretty much covered what drift is. Now, why are we covering all this? I'm glad you asked. So the purpose of covering all these terminology is to have the results that you wish to have. Once you start throwing dice, you have to learn how the dice are misbehaving. In order to correct them and get the results you want, you have to understand what on axis is, what drift is, what implosion is, what explosion is. So that's why we are going into detail about these words. So we've talked about on axis, explosion, and implosion in a prior video. Tonight we're talking about drift, single pitch, and double pitch. Alright, so we've kind of briefly touched what drift is. I think everybody should get the picture of what's happening there for drift. Now, let's go into single pitch. Actually, we're going to talk about on axis primary hit. We're going to talk about single pitch, which is called an on axis secondary hit. And we're going to talk about double pitch, which is also on axis secondary hit. So, let's talk about first on axis primary hit. When it's a primary hit, so that we have these dice set at 3-2, 3-2, both dice display a 3 on the top, a 2 on the front, a 4 on the bottom, and a 5 on the rear. So, if we throw our dice from this set, the 3-2, 3-2, And our results are both dice land displaying 3s, or displaying the 2s, or displaying the 4s, or both display the 5s. That would be a on-axis primary hit. So if we change the dice set, let's say 3-2 to 3-6, now the on-axis hits would be the 2 top numbers, or the 2 front-facing numbers, or the 2 bottom numbers, which is the 4s, or the 2 rear numbers, which is that, 5-1. So let's get back to the starting position, because right now we're only looking at the 3-2, 3-2. I just wanted to show you that every time you won't always just get the same number. Depends on your dice set. Okay, so primary on-axis hit is when whichever dice set you choose, you're going to have the 2 top numbers, you're going to have the 2 facing numbers, front facing, you're going to have the 2 bottom numbers, and you're going to have the 2 rear numbers. If both of those, if any one of that combination shows up as the result, that is an on-axis primary hit. So it's basically like this. It's basically, as I displayed with the screwdriver a few nights ago, if I could put this screwdriver, if I could slide it through the middle of them, and it would just pin the 2 dice together, the screwdriver would act like an axis as it rotated. 1, 2, 3, 4, as it just rotated along here. So it would be the same way with these. If they stay on axis, the side numbers never show. If they stay on a primary hit, it's because both of the fronts, or both of the tops, or both of the rears, or both of the bottoms showed on that particular throw. So I think that's kind of making sense. I think that's kind of covered what what primary hit is. Now let's look what a single pitch on axis dice is. So single pitch is in the same manner. We have to keep the dice on axis. So first thing you have to make sure is that the dice both stay on axis. Okay, the next thing you look at is, what's the final result? Do we have both of the top numbers showing, or do we have a number like this showing? Now, do you notice how I rolled that dice backwards once? I rolled that one backwards once. It's 1 spot away from the 3. That's an example of a single pitch. When one dice turns 1 more click than the other dice. So if these dice were thrown through the air and they were stuck together like they should be in a dice throw, and they were rotating together, and they hit and bounced, and then they come to a stop after this one rolled 1 step ahead of the other one, that would be called a single pitch. Okay, so let's say that they both rolled 2 spins, and this one happened to roll a 3rd spin. Boom. That's a single pitch. So basically what you're looking at is, where's the starting position and where's the finishing position? That's what you have to determine to figure out what a single pitch is. Single pitch and double pitch are the only 2 ways an on-axis hit can result. It's not such a thing as a triple pitch. Let me show you why. If this thing triple rolled in front of the other one, the result would be a 3-5. Okay? I'm going to roll it back to the 3-5. I mean the 3-3. So we said the result was a 3-5 if it triple pitched. But look here. If you rolled this one backwards one time, there's the 3-5. So it's still a single pitch. Even though you might think, oh, that one rolled 3 times ahead of the other one. In reality, it could have rolled 3 times ahead of the other one, but that's still referred to as a single pitch because the 3 and the 5 is 1 rotation away from each other. See the 3? See the 5? So it's 1 rotation away from each other. Now let's look at a double pitch. A double pitch would be when one dice is 2 rotations ahead of the other. So In order to get a double pitch, you would have to have either the front, and the front would be a 2 and the rear would be a 5. So a double pitch on this dice set would be when one dice rolls two places ahead of each other. So if you got a 3 on top and a 3 on top, and one rolls two rotations ahead of, 2 clicks ahead of the other one, you would have a double pitch. You would have a 3, 4, 7. Or if they both rolled complete turns and this one stopped on the 2 and then this one rolled 2 more clicks, you'd have a 2, 5, 7. So we'll look at one more example of a double pitch, because this works the same also. Let's roll this one backwards once and that one forward once. It's pretty much the same thing we done showed, but I was just showing you another way to get to a double pitch. So if that would be a double pitch. So that dice set right there, a double pitch would yield you either a 4-3 or a 2-5. So any hardway dice set, well, let me take it back. I was going to say any hardway, but if you start putting the 1s and 6s out there, it's still, a double pitch will show you 3-4, but this time a double pitch will be 1-6 instead of 2-5 if you turn the 2 and 5 toward the inside. So any hardway set that you set, a double pitch is going to always yield you a 7 on a hardway dice set. It's either going to be a 3-4, a 2-5, or a 1-6. So any hardway set, the 7 is going to come up with a double pitch. So now that we've talked about on axis, explosion, implosion, we've talked about single pitch, we've talked about double pitch, we've talked about primary hit. So a primary on axis hit, again, let me say this again. A primary would be from the starting position, the final results are both on the same facing from the starting position. What I'm saying is, if both dice ended on the tops of the starting position, both dice ended displaying the front, which is the 2s, or both dice, the final result was the bottoms, which are the 4s, or if both dice ended on the 5s. That would be a primary hit. Single pitch would be 1 click ahead of the other dice on axis, single pitch. A single pitch on axis dice is called a secondary hit. On axis, with the same numbers, with the primary hit, is when the dice don't over rotate ahead of each other. They rotate the exact same amount of turns and stop. That would be an on axis primary hit. So I think that pretty much about covers what we was trying to cover tonight. We'll go back over the terms real quick, but we're not going to go into details on them. So we talked about on axis, we talked about explosion, we talked about implosion, we talked about a drift, we talked about single pitch, double pitch, we talked about on axis primary hit and on axis secondary hit. Alright, so again, we're talking about all this because if we're trying to get results from our dice, we have to know how they are misbehaving in order to make the corrections to fix the misbehaving die. And in order to fix all that, this terminology will help you get to where you're trying to go. So on that note, I'm going to end this video. I'm going to put the description. I'm going to put a link to our Skype group, which is scrolling through at the bottom of the screen. But I'm just going to encourage each and every one of you, if you're looking for a group or a dice enthusiast that have the passion for the game, there are some awesome guys in the Crouch Chat exclamation Skype group. Crouch Chat with the exclamation point. There's some awesome guys in the group. I just encourage each and every one of you to come to the group. Join the group. It's free. It's not going to cost you a dime. Join the group. A lot of the people that's in the group have YouTube channels, and they put out a lot of content. They put out videos. We get together and play craps together. We have meetups. There is so much discussion going on about craps in this group, and I just encourage each and every one of you guys, if you're not a member of the club, of the group, just go ahead and join the group. I'm going to put a link in the description below. You click the link and join the group. It's no charge. There's a lot of guys in there that will help you, and there's a lot of guys in there that's learning. There's a lot of guys that just love the game. So, on that note, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'm going to end this video right here. I hope this was an informative video. I hope it made sense to you, and I hope you got something out of it. On that note, Chili from O-Town and Dice are out. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thanks, guys.